Anyone who has watched Journey to the West knows that the original Tang Sanzang, if he wasn't being captured by demons to be boiled into a soup, was being abducted by female spirits to serve as their pampered plaything. At the slightest scratch, he would weep and wail to Wukong, "Wukong, come quickly and save me." But ever since I transmigrated to become Tang Sanzang's master, everything has changed. Things like Shinra Tensei, Rasengan, and the 8 inner gates are, to Tang Sanzang, nothing more than basic techniques. Furthermore, along the journey to obtain the scriptures, if we aren't slaying demons for a feast, we are taking in beautiful demonesses as concubines. Whenever danger arises, Tang Sanzang's expression becomes one of immense excitement, as he bellows, "Great mighty heavenly dragon, world-honored Tathagata, Prajna Paramita, wisdom of the Buddhas. Wukong, step aside and let your master come to your rescue." After the pilgrimage, he became known as Tang Sanzang, with the meaning of concealing heaven, concealing earth, and concealing the suffering of all sentient beings. All of this is because, during the Ming Dynasty, I transmigrated to become the Abbot of Jin-Guang Temple. Watching Tang Sanzang still buried in those lifeless scriptures, I devised an incredibly rigorous training regimen for him. 10,000 push-ups, 10,000 squats, and a 100-kilometer run every single day. As long as the training doesn't kill you, you train as if you are staring death in the face. I looked at him with profound intensity and said, "Xuanzang, do not blame your master for being heartless. It is simply that in this world, those who are not ruthless cannot stand firm. In this era where demons run rampant, a tempered physical body is the only vessel strong enough to traverse the sea of suffering and protect the Dharma." Disciple understands. After listening to Master's teachings these past few days, I have learned that convincing people with virtue is useless. Using martial force to convince them is the only truth. Striking once to open the path so that one does not have to endure 100 blows in return. I watched him toil in his training, feeling a great sense of relief in my heart, to help him comprehend the deeper mysteries of the Dharma. I tossed him a few books with covers inscribed as the Diamond Sutra, though in reality they contained volumes of Dragon Ball and One Punch Man. I told him these were ancient training manuals passed down from the primordial era, noting that the character known as One Punch Man was the ultimate manifestation of the great Tao of strength. If one can cultivate it to the pinnacle, they would become another Pangu. Upon hearing my words, Tang Sanzang acted as if he had discovered a divine treasure, clutching them to his chest, meditating day and night on the arrogance contained within, whispering to himself, "This is the true path. As long as one's speed is sufficient, the body turns into an afterimage, which is the essence of emptiness. As long as one's fist is sufficiently hardened, shattering everything in one's path is the essence of emptiness." 1 week later, the true chi within his body, which was previously non-existent, had become as vast and majestic as the ocean. A single casual strike was enough to shatter mountains and split the earth. Indeed, the perception of this disciple was absurdly high. It was truly unfathomable that he could cultivate genuine internal energy from a mere picture book. However, that was still not enough. I recalled the passionate martial arts animations from my previous life, and ultimately retrieved 3 more manuals, titled 9-Turn Golden Elixir, Great Luo Dharma Mantra, and Palm of the Central Realm, handing them to him. The 9-Turn Golden Elixir was in reality the legendary Rasengan. The Great Luo Dharma Mantra was the Shinra Tensei, and the Palm of the Central Realm was Chibaku Tensei, a technique with power enough to shake the heavens and move the earth. Tang Sang was overjoyed upon receiving them, and immediately began his cultivation. Half a year later, having mastered the techniques, Tang Sung bid me farewell to journey toward the western heavens. It was precisely from this moment that the established narrative of Journey to the West completely collapsed. After parting ways with the emperor of the Tang dynasty, Tang Sung had barely crossed the border when a tiger spirit lunged out from the mountain pass, its blood-red maw agape, eager to taste the flesh of Tang Sang. In the past, Tang Sung would have been terrified to the point of wetting himself, screaming for Wukong to save him. But now Tang Sang merely sighed softly. He slowly unrobed his kasaya, revealing solid bronze-colored muscles. Folding his palms together, he spoke, "This poor monk is not skilled in martial arts, but as you, beast, have blocked my path, then this poor monk has no choice but to send you to the western paradise." Having spoken, his muscles bulged as he unleashed a single punch, devoid of flashy spells, containing only pure raw power and the sonic boom of displaced air. With a deafening blast, the tiger spirit did not even have time to let out a cry of agony. It was instantly reduced to a fine mist of blood and bone. The very mountain behind it was leveled by the sheer pressure of his punch. Tang Sang then retracted his fist, returning to the appearance of a frail and gentle monk. He chanted, "Amitabha, what a sin, what a sin." I exerted a bit too much force. It seems I still need to practice controlling my strength. Even Taibai Jinxing, watching from the clouds, stood agape in astonishment. With this level of power, does he even require my protection? That tiger truly met with 8 lifetimes of misfortune by crossing his path. I must report this to the Jade Emperor at once. In an instant, Taibai Jinxing arrived at the Lingxiao Palace. It was the hour of the morning court session, and all the immortals were in attendance. Upon hearing the report from Taibai Jinxing, the immortals could not help but burst into derisive laughter. "I believe the old man has become senile," one remarked. "Though he is the reincarnation of Jin Chanzi, he possesses no cultivation base in this lifetime. How could he possibly slay a demon tiger with a single strike?" Finally, the Jade Emperor, seated above in the Lingxiao Hall, spoke. "Enough. Taibai Jinxing is a veteran immortal. He would not speak such nonsense." After speaking, the Jade Emperor flicked his sleeves, dispersing the white clouds beneath the Lingxiao Hall, revealing the image of Tang Sung as he emerged from the deep mountains. To the eye he appeared entirely as a frail monk, with not a shred of power within his body. Tang Sung is the reincarnation of Jin Chanzi and the linchpin of this great celestial catastrophe. There must not be the slightest error. If you do not wish to undertake this task, tell me and I can send another. Taibai Jing-Sing, standing below and hearing the Queen Mother's words, looked as miserable as a bitter gourd. I clearly witnessed him slay that demon tiger with a single blow just moments ago. Very well, he is about to reach the Five-Finger Mountain where that monkey is imprisoned. Go and keep watch, ensure that nothing untoward occurs. Soon Taibai Jing-Sing arrived at the Five-Finger Mountain. At this moment Sun Wukong, trapped beneath the mountain, saw him and greeted, "Old man, it has been a long time, has it not? Did you bring me any golden elixirs or flat peaches?" Hearing Sun Wukong's words, Taibai Jing-Sing, already frustrated, felt his irritation grow. This monkey, having been pinned under the mountain for hundreds of years, opened his mouth only to demand precious golden elixirs and flat peaches. Did he truly take him for the Jade Emperor? Even the immortals observing the Five-Finger Mountain from above fell into a brief, uncomfortable silence. This monkey was truly lawless. He spoke as if the flat peaches and golden elixirs belonged to his own household. After a moment of silence, Taibai Jing-Sing spoke to Sun Wukong. "Soon a monk traveling to the west for scriptures will pass by here. He will help you undo the seal. He is but a mortal. A mere mortal? No matter, no matter. As long as he can set me free, that is all that matters. Never mind escorting him to the western heaven. Even if I had to help him usurp the throne of the Jade Emperor, those flat peaches and golden elixirs would eventually be mine." Before long, Tang Sung arrived at the Five-Finger Mountain. Upon his arrival, he saw a monkey's head shouting and "Master, quickly ascend the mountain and remove the seal for me, and I shall protect you on your journey to the western heaven to obtain the sutras." Tang Sanzang froze. He immediately realized this was the same Sun Wukong who had once wreaked havoc in the heavenly palace that he had heard tales of, and he knew this monkey was destined to be his disciple. He looked up at the great mountain crushing the monkey, shook his head and said, "Climbing mountains is far too exhausting, and having to tear off that ceiling paper is such a hassle." Trapped beneath the mountain, Wukong was bewildered. Then what does Master intend to do? This poor monk is not skilled in martial arts, but I can manage to move a few rocks. Suddenly Wukong watched as Tang Sanzang channeled his chi to his dantian, unleashed a mighty roar, gripped the peak of the Five Fingers Mountain with both hands, and shouted, "Rise for me!" The earth trembled, and the heavens groaned. As the Five Elements Mountain, an edifice that not even gods or immortals could budge, was actually uprooted solely by the raw brute force of Tang Sanzang's muscles. Sun Wukong was stunned. Taibai Jing-Sing, who was hiding in the shadows, was utterly dumbfounded, and even the host of immortals, observing from the heavenly court, turned to stone, as Tang Sanzang casually tossed the mountain aside, dusted off his hands and said, "Let us go, my disciple. We must continue our journey." Sun Wukong swallowed hard, thinking to himself, is this truly a mortal too weak to even trust a chicken? Could there be some mistake? Thereafter, Sun Wukong obediently slung the luggage over his shoulder, and as he walked, he swore a silent oath never to anger this monk in this lifetime. This was no journey to obtain sutras, it was clearly a martial murderer masquerading in a cassock. Only now did the Jade Emperor regain his senses, and he immediately issued a stern order to the pagoda-bearing Heavenly King to investigate Tang Sanzang's bizarre transformation without delay. Great Immortal Yuan Yi was dispatched to the west to explain Tang Sanzang's situation. The Spirit of the Great Axe was ordered to immediately join Taibai Jing-Sing in shadowing Tang Sanzang closely. Every rustle in the grass, every hint of movement had to be reported. And so master and disciple continued westward, arriving quickly at the Eagle Sorrow Gorge. Suddenly wild winds howled, a waterspout soared into the sky, and a white dragon opened its blood-red maw, intending to swallow that mortal horse whole. Sun Wukong, standing beside him, drew the Ruyi Jingu Bang and roared at the demon, "Do not be so arrogant, behold old Sun." Yet before Wukong could finish his sentence, he saw Tang Sanzang take a step forward, his cassock flowing. He shielded the mortal horse, which was already paralyzed with fear, behind him, and gazed calmly at the white dragon hovering mid-air. Amitabha. Though this poor monk's mount is a mortal creature, he has been a faithful companion on my journey from Chang'an to this place. Evil creature, your temper is far too fierce. As soon as the words left his mouth, Tang Sanzang slowly raised his right hand, palm facing the white dragon in the air, and softly uttered 4 words, "Almighty push." With a deafening boom, in an instant, a terrifying pressure, indescribable by words, exploded outward with Tang Sanzang's palm as the focal point. There was no brilliant golden light, nor any celestial chanting. There was only the compression of physical space and an explosion of raw, unadulterated power. Confronted by this world-shattering force, the entire river at Yingshou Ravine was crushed downward, as if struck by an invisible gargantuan beast. The river, once bottomless, was instantly displaced, its waters surging hundreds of meters into the air and shattering the stone cliffs on both banks. At the very epicenter of Yingshou Ravine, a massive crater thousands of meters in diameter was carved into the earth. The little white dragon, which had been so majestic moments ago, could not even emit a single roar before being pinned to the now dry riverbed by this earth-shaking, mountain-toppling power. Its hardened dragon scales shattered inch by inch, its mouth dripping with blood, Sun Wukong stood petrified on the spot. His golden eyes trembled violently. This is what they call not proficient in martial arts. This is what they call a weak monk. With a mere wave of his hand, he has drained an entire section of the river. It was not just Sun Wukong. Even Tai Bai Jinxing and the giant spirit god, hiding amidst the clouds, were so terrified that they tumbled out of the sky, nearly falling straight into the ravine. Is this truly the reincarnation of Jin Chanzi? Tai Bai Jinxing's face turned deathly pale, his beard trembling as he whispered, "Quickly, bring out the jade slip to record this and transmit it to the heavenly court. This is a matter of great significance." At this moment, Tang Sung walked toward the gasping little white dragon. He squatted down, stroked the dragon's head, and spoke, "Amitabha, how merciful, how merciful. I failed to control my strength properly just now. I apologize. I invite you to transform into a white horse and accompany me on my journey to the Western Heaven to retrieve the scriptures. What do you say?" Though half of its bones were broken, the little white dragon's consciousness remained intact. Driven by the instinct for survival, it nodded frantically. Then, a flash of white light erupted. It transformed into a stallion with a coat as white as snow. Though it appeared thin and frail due to its severe injuries, Tang Sung shook his head. "Too weak. Your physical body is far too feeble." Having said that, Tang Sing pressed a palm against the little white dragon's head, pouring a surge of powerful true qi into its body. The little white dragon's eyes immediately turned bloodshot as its muscles began to bulge and expand violently. The once slender white horse grew a full meter taller. Its legs became as thick as stone pillars, and its abdomen rippled with 8 clearly defined abdominal muscles resembling plates of armor. It looked exactly like a battle-hardened stallion that had just consumed a potent stimulant. Sun Wukong, standing to the side and watching the transformation of the white horse, swallowed hard before obediently stepping forward to take hold of the reins. He swore that on this journey he would be a silent observer, never uttering an unnecessary word. Meanwhile, within the great Lei Temple in the Western Heaven, the Buddhas throughout the heavens were in a state of chaotic astonishment. Jin Chanzi shattered the demon tiger into a mist of blood and bone with a single punch, even uprooting the mountain. This was an absolute impossibility. Amitabha, he has been immortal for 10 incarnations. How could he possibly possess such divine strength? "Do not speak nonsense before the Buddha," the assembled deities whispered amongst themselves, refusing to believe it. Even the Tathagata Buddha was skeptical, but after performing a swift calculation, his expression shifted instantly. That visage, which had remained solemn and unchanging for eons, rarely revealed even a trace of shock. He discovered that the heavenly secrets, once crystalline and clear, had dissolved into total chaos. He could no longer discern the 81 tribulations he himself had orchestrated. Just then, Guanyin Bodhisattva rushed into the great hall. "Buddha, a grave matter has occurred. The pilgrim has encountered a profound complication. The physical form of Jin Chanzi is now beyond all measure." At Yingshu Stream, he did not utilize a shred of magic, relying solely on the explosive power of his flesh to scatter the very currents of the river. The moment these words left Guanyin's lips, the Mahavira Hall erupted into a state of shock. If the barefoot immortal of the heavenly court could be mistaken, Guanyin Bodhisattva certainly could not. "Buddha, how shall we proceed? If he continues to shatter the path of the pilgrimage in this manner, will the merit of the 81 tribulations not fall into complete disarray?" Tathagata Buddha remained silent for a long time, eventually letting out a profound sigh. "The threads of fate have shifted. An anomaly has emerged. Proclaim my decree. The great task of the pilgrimage must not cease. Command the Vajra guardians to follow him in secret and record his actions. Do not interfere unless it is a matter of absolute necessity. Tang Sanzang, I wish to see exactly what manner of Buddhist practice you are truly cultivating." While Lingshan and the heavenly court were in an uproar, the master and his disciples arrived at the Guanyin Zen monastery. They were greeted by Elder Jinshi, an old monk who had lived for over 200 years. As night fell, the meditation chamber was ablaze with candlelight. Elder Jinshi led a group of young novices to boast of his own kasaya robe before Tang Sanzang, bragging of its gold thread embroidery and inlaid pearls. After a long display of vanity, Elder Jinshi stroked his beard and spoke, "You hail from the great Tang Empire. Do you have any treasures that might open our eyes?" Sun Wukong, sitting to the side sipping tea, curled his lip in disdain. He intended to deliver a stinging retort, but glancing at his master, who sat as still as a temple bell, he suppressed the urge. He merely retreated a small distance, fearing that blood might splatter onto him later. Tang Sanzang smiled with profound gentleness and replied, "Elder, you are mistaken. Before my departure, the Bodhisattva bestowed upon me a kasaya, saying it was impervious to fire and water, capable of repelling demons. I shall bring it forth for you to witness." At his command, Wukong produced a bundle that emitted a radiant golden light. As it was unfolded, the kasaya surged with a brilliant blinding glow, causing the entire meditation chamber. Elder Jinshi stared in a daze, his mouth agape with drool, his greedy gaze impossible to conceal. He made an excuse to take it to his room to examine it closely for the night. Tang Sing, generous as ever, agreed without hesitation. Yet, in the dead of night, turbulent undercurrents surged within the Guanyin Zen monastery. Consumed by the desire to possess the kasaya, Elder Jinshi ordered his men to surround the Zen chamber, where Tang Sung and Sun Wukong rested with piles of dry firewood. A massive conflagration roared into the sky, the ferocious flames swiftly devouring the chamber. Sun Wukong, stirred by the smoke, instinctively snapped awake. Seeing the sea of fire outside, he hurriedly turned toward his master's bed, intent on rousing Tang Sing. As he took in the scene amidst the inferno, Sun Wukong felt as if his monkey mind was on the verge of collapsing. There upon the meditation bed, engulfed in scorching flames, sat Tang Sing, bare-chested, hands locked in the great Sun Tathagata seal, sitting in the lotus position. Those fires, capable of melting iron into liquid, seemed to strike divine steel the moment they touched Tang Sang's skin. Furthermore, the rippling muscles of Tang Sang rose and fell in a rhythmic cadence with his breathing, and strangely enough he was absorbing the searing heat of the surrounding flames into his lungs, emitting a low, rhythmic murmur. The master once taught that the boat of the sea of suffering is the ultimate vessel for tempering the physical body. Sun Wukong, standing to the side, collapsed to his knees. Was his master a monk or an ancient grand sorcerer? Amidst this chaos, a black bear spirit from Black Wind Mountain, dozens of miles away, was drawn to the glow of the flames. Taking advantage of the confusion caused by the fire, the demon slipped into Elder Jin Shi's chamber, catching sight of the brilliant, glowing Kasaya at a single glance, before whipping up a gust of demonic wind to spirit the treasure away to the Black Wind Cave that very night. The next morning, the fires at Guanyin Monastery slowly flickered out, leaving behind only a desolate ruin. Elder Jin Shi, certain that Tang Sung had been reduced to ashes, went to inspect the remains with glee. But the moment he opened the courtyard gate, he saw Tang Sung stretching his limbs, refreshed and vibrant, while Sun Wukong beside him used his golden cudgel to pick his teeth. Elder Jin Shi was so terrified he collapsed onto the ground. Before he could recover, a young novice monk ran over, wailing in panic, "Abbot, it is a disaster, the Kasaya is gone." As the words left his lips, the courtyard fell into a deathly, stifling silence. Sun Wukong's expression shifted violently, ready to lash out with accusations, but Tang Seng raised a hand to stop him. Tang Seng looked down at the cowering Elder Jin Shi, then cast his gaze toward Black Wind Mountain in the distance, sensing a lingering trace of demonic aura remaining in the air. This monk intended to treat others with courtesy, and wished to avoid unnecessary slaughter, yet a lowly demon dares to pilfer the belongings of this monk. Tang Sung took a deep, steady breath, and with a thunderous boom, a shockwave visible to the naked eye erupted, centered entirely around him. "Wukong, lead the way. This master shall teach them the true meaning of Buddhist physical prowess." With that, Tang Sang stomped his foot heavily. The solid earth instantly fractured, revealing a massive crater. The explosive force was so terrifying that he transformed into a streak of light, hurtling directly toward the Black Wind Mountain. In a mere heartbeat, the man and the monkey arrived before the Black Wind Cave. Tang Sung stood firm, brushed the dust from his cassock, and spoke. "Amitabha, hearken you demons within. Surrender the cassock at once and repent, and this monk may yet spare your life." The black bear spirit inside the cave flew into a furious rage upon hearing the call from outside. What manner of wild monk dares to act so insolently before the residence of the black bear grandfather? With a thunderous boom, the 1,000 catty stone gates were thrust open. The black bear spirit emerged with a menacing spear as thick as a bowl in his grip, flanked by a horde of cheering lesser demons. I wondered who it was. It turns out to be a soft-skinned monk, just in time, for my feast was in need of a garnish for the wine. "Haha, little ones, seize him and scrub him clean." Upon hearing the black bear spirit's crazed laughter, Wukong silently began chanting a prayer for the dead on behalf of the creature. This foolish bear had chosen the wrong person to provoke. He had poked a hornet's nest. Tang Seng's eyes flashed with a terrifying golden brilliance as he heard the laughter. He slowly raised his right hand, assuming no martial arts stance, merely spreading his fingers slightly. The true chi within his body surged and converged into his right palm. With a sudden roar, the air around him emitted a piercing shriek. A current of energy, visible to the naked eye, swirled violently within his palm. Compressed in less than a breath, a sphere of true chi solidified, radiating a brilliant golden light. A terrifying pressure erupted, radiating outwards. 9-turn golden elixir Great Sun Tathagata spiral sphere. Tang Sung shouted, stomped the ground, and shot forward like a cannonball toward the black bear spirit. The black bear spirit, who had been laughing wildly just a second before, suddenly felt a deathly pressure locking onto his very soul. Panic seized him, and he frantically raised his 1,000 catty iron spear to block the blow. But in the next heartbeat, facing the rapidly rotating sphere, that spear, as if crafted from scrap paper, was instantly pulverized into shards of metal. Immediately following, Tang Seng's hand, wielding the spiraling orb, slammed forcefully into the black bear spirit's chest. With a deafening detonation, the black bear spirit felt a gargantuan force bore into his body, instantly shattering his internal organs. He did not even have the time to let out a single wretched cry. The massive body was instantly sent flying backward like a cannonball, crashing directly through the Black Wind Cave behind it, and continuing on to pierce through the entire Black Wind Mountain. Finally, the carcass of the black bear spirit landed several kilometers away, reverting to its original form, utterly devoid of life. The lesser demons on the mountain were so terrified that their hearts nearly burst. Losing all control, they fell to their knees and kowtowed frantically. Tang Sung withdrew his right hand, gently blowing on his palm, despite there being no dust, and turned to look at Sun Wukong in the sky with a gentle, benevolent smile. "Wukong, go and sever the 2 front paws of that bear demon. Your master has often heard that bear paws are the most exquisite delicacy in the world, perfect for replenishing the vital energy I have just expended." Sun Wukong nodded repeatedly, as obedient as a new bride settling into her husband's home. "Very well, master, you rest now. This disciple will roast the bear paws for you immediately, ensuring they are charred to perfection on the outside and tender within." Just as Sun Wukong was enthusiastically lighting a fire to prepare the meat, a flash of Buddhist light shimmered in the sky. Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva descended, full of anticipation. Her purpose in coming was twofold. First, she shared a karmic affinity with the black bear spirit, and intended to bring him back to the South Sea to serve as the guardian of the mountain. And second, she wished to confirm if her previous assessment had been mistaken, and whether Tang Sang had truly changed. However, as her lotus throne descended through the clouds, Avalokitesvara caught the rich, savory scent of roasted meat. She steadied her gaze, only to see that Black Wind Mountain, once as beautiful as a painting, now possessed a massive, man-made tunnel through its center. Half the mountain had collapsed, and on the barren ground amidst the rubble, Tang Sanzang sat upon a rock, holding a large wooden spit over which a massive golden and crispy bear paw was being roasted, while beside him, Sun Wukong carefully brushed seasonings onto the paw with a jar of honey. "Master, taste this and see if my control over the flame is to your liking? Since this black bear's cultivation was quite formidable, the meat is surely firm." Tang Sung took a large bite of the bear paw, letting out a sound of satisfied approval. Not bad. The muscle fibers are quite firm. It must have exercised regularly while it was alive. Amitabha, this is for the best. By offering its flesh and bone to aid this monk in cultivating his physical Buddha Dharma, it has surely accumulated immeasurable merit. Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva's expression instantly froze. If her deductions were correct, the owner of this bear paw was the very guardian she had intended to recruit. She felt truly crestfallen. Tang Sanzang, as a practitioner of the faith, you should take compassion as your foundation and abstain from killing and hearing the commotion. Tang Sang swallowed the piece of bear meat in his mouth, looked up at Guanyin in the sky, and made no haste to wipe the grease from his lips, then pressed his palms together, his expression appearing deeply reverent. Amitabha, you are unaware of the circumstances. The Abbot of Jin-Guang Temple once imparted the great truth unto me. Wine and meat pass through the intestines, but the Buddha remains within the heart. This humble monk consumes this bear meat not out of gluttony, but to temper the body, for only through such trials can the mortal coil become as tempered steel. Having spoken, Tang Sung even raised a skewer of roasted bear meat toward the heavens, as if asking the Bodhisattva if she wished to partake while it was still hot. Guanyin was so incensed that her chest heaved with fury, and for a long moment she could only point at Tang Sung, unable to utter a single word. She realized then that this pilgrim of the scriptures had completely lost his mind. He possessed not only explosive martial prowess but also a distorted, sophistic interpretation of the Dharma. After enjoying a hearty meal, Tang Sung and his disciples continued their journey. A few days later they arrived at a mountain gorge, where a beautiful woman draped in silk of azure blue gracefully approached them, none other than the 1,000-year-old spirit-draining demoness, Yu Qiao. Having already set her sights on Tang Sung, she asked, "Master, have you lost your way? The mountain paths are treacherous at night. Would you not prefer to follow this humble maiden home to rest for the night?" As the demoness spoke with a coy, alluring tone, she deliberately leaned against Tang Sang. Beside them, Sun Wukong's fiery golden eyes flashed with insight, immediately identifying her as a 1,000-year-old fox spirit. And he drew his golden hooped staff, prepared to strike, only to be stopped by Tang Sang. Tang Sang scanned the demoness from head to toe, a strange glint flashing in his eyes. "Amitabha, the female benefactor is truly kind-hearted. If that is the case, this humble monk shall trouble you for your hospitality." Seeing Tang Sung smile and agree, Sun Wukong was instantly stunned, his face filled with utter disbelief. "What has come over, master?" In the past, when encountering demons, he would either blast them into oblivion with a single strike or crush them into pulp with his techniques. Why is he being so courteous to this demoness today? Could it be that even a monk has been stirred by worldly desires? Before long, they followed the demoness to her cavernous lair. The demoness shooed Sun Wukong away and invited Tang Sing into her inner chamber, where she lit a specially crafted incense and whispered, "Master, the night is long. Allow me to relieve you of your weariness." Sensing that the moment was ripe, she coiled around Tang Sing like a water snake. Exhaling plumes of pink demonic mist, she lunged directly at Tang Sing, intending to unleash her harvest technique to drain his primal young essence. Yet, in the following instant, the enchantress's expression shifted violently, for she realized in horror that no matter how she channeled her forbidden technique, not only could she not draw a shred of yang energy from him, but she felt as though she had pressed herself against a block of searing, molten iron. Tang Sing slowly opened his eyes, his gaze remarkably clear and alert. "Amitabha, benefactress, this trick of yours is truly base and beneath contempt." With that, Tang Sing clamped his hand around the enchantress's slender, pale wrist and bellowed, "8 inner gates, gate of life, open!" As his words fell, the temperature of his skin surged instantly, and a terrifying vacuum force erupted from his palm. The enchantress felt the world spin around her, as the pure yin energy of the Fox clan, cultivated over 1,000 years, surged uncontrollably into Tang Seng's body. This Tang Seng was actually performing a reverse harvest upon her. "Elder Mercy, I beg you, stop, I am truly about to be drained dry." Yet moments later she discovered a flow of pure yang energy flooding into her own body, refining the demonic key within her into refined harmonious yin power. Simultaneously, under the convergence of yin and yang, the musculature of Tang Seng's back grew more defined, with the faint image of a golden dragon rippling beneath his skin. After a long moment, Tang Seng exhaled a long white mist. "Not bad. This stream of pure Tai-yin energy has perfectly neutralized the 9-yang divine fire within this monk." Tang Seng then lifted the enchantress's chin. "Today I shall show great mercy and spare your life. From now on you shall remain by my side as a personal handmaiden. You shall serve tea and water by day. Do you agree?" I agree. Thank you, Elder, for sparing my life." The enchantress, looking at Tang Seng, whose terrifying strength made her skin crawl, nodded frantically, fearing that if she were a second too slow, she would be struck dead with a single palm. The next day, when Wukong saw the enchantress, dressed in simple modest blue robes, his eyes nearly bulged from their sockets. Master, this demon, did you keep her because you didn't kill her for a feast? Amitabha, do not be blinded by appearances. This benefactress possessed roots of virtue, and has been completely enlightened by my profound Buddhist dharma. From now on, she shall be your junior sister. Why have you not yet greeted your senior brother? The instruction to greet her senior brother left Wukong completely stunned. Meanwhile, in the Lingxiao Hall, the immortals observed this scene, each of them falling into a profound and heavy silence. Is this fellow truly on a pilgrimage to the western heavens to retrieve scriptures? With a single strike of a massive orb, he shattered Blackwind Mountain to dust. After finishing the roasted bear paw, not only did he show no signs of monastic abstinence, but he even turned the female demon into his personal maid to warm his bed. He then proceeded to engage in the dual cultivation practice of plucking yin to nourish yang. What kind of temple produces a monk who goes on a pilgrimage in this manner? Finally, the Jade Emperor rubbed his throbbing temples. He turned to the Queen Mother beside him and whispered, "What exactly is this so-called key to the heavenly tribulation? What kind of temple produces a monk who goes on a pilgrimage in this manner? When Jin Chanzi reincarnated, did he ingest something tainted down there that caused him to mutate? Is that all?" The Queen Mother's expression suddenly stiffened. As the foremost of the female immortals, having lived through countless eons, she had truly never witnessed a pilgrimage conducted with such a style. After a long silence, the Queen Mother replied to His Majesty that this matter had already spiraled beyond the control of the heavenly court. One day in heaven is equivalent to 1 year in the mortal realm. After the discussion among the deities concluded, the Tang Sung party had arrived at the Gao family manor in the mortal world. "Master, there is a manor ahead, and the plaque reads Gao family manor. We have a place to stay tonight. Amitabha, the night has fallen. It is a perfect time to enter the manor and request a vegetarian meal, and perhaps see if they have any premium artisanal spice rub for roasted meat." Having said that, the group marched aggressively into the manor. Upon entering, the Gao family patriarch and his kin were immediately surrounded by this bizarre ensemble. Especially upon seeing the white horse, which was larger than an elephant, and the holy monk sitting atop it like an iron tower, the Gao family patriarch's legs grew weak. After a brief conversation, Tang Seng learned that a pig demon resided in the area and intended to abduct the master's daughter that very night. Tang Seng immediately displayed an expression of intense excitement. "Patron Gao, rest assured, this humble monk detests such behavior above all else. If that pig demon dares to appear tonight, this monk will show him the true meaning of physical transcendence through great mercy and compassion." That night, Tang Sung disguised himself as Gao Cuilan and quietly awaited the appearance of the demon. Soon, a gust of demonic wind swept through, the door was kicked open, and Zhubaje, with his massive boar head and protruding belly, stormed inside. "My dear wife, old Zhu is here. Let me show you how well I can cherish you." However, when he flung the red curtain aside, what met his eyes but rather a muscular man sitting in a lotus position. Zhubaje was left completely stunned. "Good heavens, have I, old Zhu, walked through the wrong door? Since when did the Gao family village turn into a Buddhist temple?" Tang Seng slowly opened his eyes. A golden light flickered and then vanished into the depths of his pupils. Tang Seng smiled faintly. "So you are the pig demon, causing trouble for the villagers? You truly are quite hideous." Upon hearing this, Zhubaje was instantly enraged. After all, he was once the Marshal Tianpeng of the heavenly court. Having descended to the mortal realm, how could he endure such insults from a mere mortal monk? He let out a thunderous roar, summoned his 9-tooth rake, and struck directly down at Tang Seng's head. Sun Wukong, hidden in the shadows, prepared to intervene, only to notice that Tang Sung did not even bother to lift an eyelid. The first gate of the 8 inner gates swung wide open. A loud explosion erupted from within Tang Seng's body. A wave of emerald green energy surged forth from his physique. The stone tiles surrounding him were instantly pulverized into dust. Facing the descending rake, he neither dodged nor retreated. With supreme composure, he extended his right hand. A sharp clink echoed. A piercing sound resonated through the night sky as sparks flew everywhere. Zhubaje felt his arms go numb, and the webbing between his thumbs and forefingers split open instantly. He stared in utter disbelief, his pig eyes wide with shock. He saw that Tang Sung had caught the descending 9-tooth rake with nothing but 2 fingers. No matter how much strength Zhubaje exerted to force it down, the rake remained as immovable as a mountain between Tang Sung's fingers. A wave of uncontrollable terror surged within Zhubaje's heart. How could this be? What kind of monster are you? Your strength is too weak, your speed is too slow. You are a pig lacking even the most basic cultivation. Tang Sung gave a cold laugh, snapped his fingers with great force, and with a crisp crack, a massive surge of raw power channeled through the rake. Zhubaje's massive frame was instantly flung into the air by this immense force. Immediately after, Tang Seng's figure vanished from his original position in a heartbeat. White sonic booms exploded in his wake. When he reappeared, he was already hovering above Zhubaje. Amidst Zhubaje's sheer terror, a kick, like a snapping whip, struck heavily against his stomach. Accompanied by a miserable shriek, Zhubaje was sent hurtling downward as if struck by a cannonball. He plummeted from the sky and crashed violently into the earth. With a thunderous boom, the ground trembled and dust filled the air. An impact crater 10 meters deep and nearly 30 meters in diameter was carved into the earth. Zhuba lay at the bottom of the pit, over a dozen of his bones shattered, coughing up torrents of blood as he struggled in vain to crawl. Tang Sung descended slowly to the edge of the pit, brushed the dust from his robes, and spoke to Master Gao, who stood nearby in a state of shock. Master Gao, I must trouble you to prepare a large cauldron, the larger, the better, and boil some water. This meat appears quite succulent for our meal tonight. At that very moment, Zhuba, lying at the bottom of the pit, gathered his final shreds of strength and shrieked with a hoarse voice. Spare me, holy monk. I am here under orders to await your arrival for the pilgrimage to the west. As the words left his lips, Tang Sang froze, stroking his smooth bald head. Oh, so you are the second disciple arranged to accompany me. Sun Wukong hurriedly leapt down from the tree. Master, I have examined him. There is indeed a mark upon this pig demon, so he is likely telling the truth. Tang Sung sighed and shook his head, looking quite disappointed. If we are to be fellow disciples, then I shall not eat you. However, you could not even withstand a single kick from your master. How could you possibly protect Tang Xing on the journey to the western heaven? Finishing his sentence, Tang Sung leapt into the pit and grabbed Zhuba by the ear as if he were a small chick. From tomorrow onward, you and Xiaobai shall carry 10,000 jin weights daily and perform 10,000 squats. If you fail to complete the task, I shall skin you and fashion a coat to keep myself warm. Zhuba trembled in terror, nodding frantically to signal that he would obey every one of his master's commands without question. The following morning, the group departed from Gao village. As they left, Gao Culan gazed at Tang Seng's imposing silhouette, her eyes brimming with tears, a flicker of attachment rising in her heart. That tall, muscular frame was the definition of a true man. He was 10,000 times superior to the hideous, cowardly pig demon. Tang Seng sensed her lingering attachment, but he spoke with icy indifference. Mortals have weak constitutions and cannot withstand my Buddhist dharma. We share a fate but not a destiny. Do not cling to this. He then strode toward the west. Not long after leaving Gao village, the group arrived at Yellow Wind Ridge. No sooner had they arrived than Wukong warned, Master, the demonic aura in these mountains is overwhelming. A powerful demon must be lurking here. Allow me to scout the path. However, before he could finish, the Yellow Wind demon of Yellow Wind Ridge had already spotted Tang Seng. Taking a deep breath, the demon opened his maw and unleashed a world-shattering blast of Samadhi divine wind toward the group. Instantly, the sky turned dark, sand and stones swept through the air, ancient trees were uprooted, and boulders were hurled into the heavens. Sun Wukong, struck with alarm, hurriedly cast a spell, pinning Zhuba and the white dragon horse firmly to the ground. Jade Dragon, terrified, turned deathly pale. As they were on the verge of being swept away by the demonic gale, Tang Sung spread his arms, pulling her into his embrace to shield her. Do you dare to display such insignificant parlor tricks before me? Tang Seng stood unmoved at the epicenter of the gale, holding his ground as the terrifying Samadhi divine wind lashed against him, without shaking his stance in the slightest. He pressed his palms together in a prayer gesture, revealing his formidable, hulking muscles. Golden light erupted from his eyes, and the true energy within his body surged forth completely. That overwhelming aura instantly repelled the Samadhi divine wind swirling around him. Behold the weight of your own despair. Suddenly Tang Seng raised his hands, weaving a bizarre celestial seal before his chest, the earthly binding of heavenly fate. As the words left his lips, a thunderous boom resonated through the air. A sphere of black light, radiating a terrifying gravitational force, surged from Tang Seng's palms. It ascended slowly into the sky above Huangfeng Ridge. Once the black sphere reached an altitude of several thousand meters, the immense gravitational power hidden within it was unleashed. A deafening roar shattered the silence, as if the entire 800-mile range of the Huangfeng Mountains had reached its final hour. The earth began to crack and fracture violently. Countless boulders, each weighing tens of thousands of pounds, along with entire peaks and vast plains, were stripped away and pulled toward the heavens. The Yellow Wind Demon. The Yellow Wind Demon stood frozen in shock. The Samadhi divine wind he had always prided himself upon appeared nothing more than a child's game in the face of such a terrifying domain. Moments later, the Yellow Wind Demon, along with 10,000 minor demons across the mountains, was lifted into the air. With the black sphere as the epicenter, earth, stone, and vegetation were crushed and compressed together, forming a gargantuan meteoroid dozens of kilometers in diameter in the middle of the sky. Trapped at the very core of this celestial body, the Yellow Wind Demon had his bones pulverized and his soul extinguished into nothingness. Tang Seng looked up at the colossal meteoroid in the sky, clapped his hands and remarked, Amitabha, physical transcendence is truly efficient and swift. Sun Wukong, Zhuba Yu Qiao, and all the survivors below looked up at the firmament, staring at the artificially created meteoroid in a state of utter stupefaction. At this rate, what point is there in continuing the pilgrimage for the scriptures? If he truly wished to, he could uproot the Great Lion Temple from the western heavens with his bare hands. After a night of rest and reorganization, Tang Seng's party continued their journey westward. With the head maid Yu Qiao there to serve him, Tang Seng's journey could be described as incredibly indulgent. By day he tempered his body, by night he practiced dual cultivation with Yu Qiao within his tent. After a period, the chaotic demonic energy previously tainting Yu Qiao's body had been completely purged by the vast, pure yang essence of Tang Seng. Not only had her cultivation base surged significantly, but her gaze toward Tang Seng was now overflowing with such fervent adoration and infatuation, as if she were looking upon a divine deity. That day the group arrived before a colossal river where waves surged to the heavens. They saw the river water was turbid and murky, spanning an expanse of 800 li. On the bank stood a stone tablet engraved with 3 large characters, Flowing Sand River. Below it was a smaller inscription, 800 li of flowing sand. 3,000 fathoms of weak water where not even a reed can stay afloat, where even a goose feather will sink without a trace. Bajie's face immediately twisted into a grimace. Master, this will be difficult. This weak water has no buoyancy. Even a single feather would sink instantly. We lack a boat. How are we to cross? Sun Wukong scratched his cheek. Old Sun can fly across, but Master's mortal flesh cannot touch this weak water. I fear it would not bode well. Before his words could even fade, Wukong closed his eyes, for he saw that the man possessing the mortal body had begun stretching his muscles on the side, his joints cracking with a rhythmic, thunderous popping sound as he warmed up. Amitabha, I have taught you all time and again. When faced with hardship, do not always rely on external tools. The laws of physics are the true path. The next second, Tang Sanzang dripped in his brocade kasaya, stepped before the flowing sand river, took a deep breath and drew his right fist back, slowly retracting it to his waist. In an instant, the surrounding air seemed to freeze. All sound, the wind, the rushing water, vanished in that single moment. On Tang Sang's right fist, a torrent of dark light converged with wild intensity. Serious punch, he declared, followed by a deafening boom. There were no flowery techniques or unnecessary flourishes. There was only the strike of a physical body that had shattered all limits. A terrifying transparent vortex erupted, like an invisible axe cleaving heaven and earth, crashing straight down into the flowing sand river. With a massive roar, the 800-li-wide river was split directly in two by that single strike. A dry, 100-zang-wide passage along the riverbed appeared before them, leading straight to the opposite bank. Moreover, the force of the punch did not dissipate. It continued forward, leveling several mountains on the far shore. Sun Wukong and Zhu Bajie were so terrified that they clung to each other, trembling uncontrollably. Monkey brother, back when I served as the marshal of the heavenly canopy, I had never witnessed anyone split a river in two with a single bare-handed strike. As the riverbed was laid bare, Sha Sang also appeared before their eyes. However, his current condition was dire. He lay amidst the mud and sand, eyes rolled back and limbs twitching violently. It was clear he had been severely concussed by the sheer force of that punch. Once Sha Wujing had recovered, Tang Sanzang strolled leisurely toward him. Looking down from above, he cracked his knuckles with a rhythmic sound and spoke with a gentle demeanor. Amitabha, this poor monk sees that you possess extraordinary bones and a remarkable constitution. Would you be interested in joining your master on the journey to the Western Heaven to discuss the profundities of the Dharma? Sha Wujing looked at the dry riverbed that served as their path. He then turned his gaze to those knuckles, which were still emitting an ominous cracking sound. Swallowing hard, he immediately fell to his knees in surrender. Spare my life, divine monk. This humble Sha Wujing is willing to brave fire and water for you. Tang Sanzang nodded in approval of his good sense. By this point, the 3 primary warriors of the pilgrimage team had been reduced to the roles of a cook, a scout, and a beast of burden. Several months later, the group arrived at Pingding Mountain. Zhu Bajie, who was tasked with scouting ahead, carelessly stepped into a trap laid by the great King Yin Zhao. He was promptly captured and dragged into the Lotus Cave. Jin Zhao and Yin Zhao stared at the captive Zhu Bajie with expressions of pure disdain. Our target is Tang Sanzang. Why have you brought back a pig-headed beast? The great King Yin Zhao then produced the purple gold gourd. Elder brother, I shall go and pay this Tang Sanzang a visit. I need only hold up this gourd and call his name. Should he dare to answer, he will be instantly pulled inside and dissolved into a pool of blood. With the gourd in hand, the great King Yin Zhao set off to find Tang Sanzang and his companions. At that moment, Tang Sanzang was riding atop the white dragon horse, eating lychees fed to him by Jade Dragon. You, the large monk ahead. Are you Tang Sanzang, the one traveling from the great Tang of the East? Tang Sanzang glanced at the glowing gourd, a sneer of contempt curling his lips. I go by no other name. I am your grandfather, Tang Sanzang. State your business. Upon hearing Tang Sanzang respond, the great King Yin Zhao was overcome with ecstasy. He ripped the stopper from the gourd, channeling his entire spiritual energy to activate the artifact. In you go. In an instant, a formidable force of spatial suction erupted from the mouth of the gourd. It manifested as a massive beam of crimson light. It immediately locked onto Tang Sanzang below. In theory, once ensnared by this radiance, even a great Luo Golden Immortal would be unable to resist being drawn inside. Yet in the following moment, something truly bizarre occurred. Although the crimson light completely engulfed Tang Sanzang, and the terrifying gravitational force tore at his very form, Tang Sanzang did not move so much as an inch. He remained firmly seated upon the back of his white horse. Great King Silverhorn was stunned, wondering, what is the meaning of this? Silverhorn frantically shook the gourd in his hands, shouting, absorb him for me. What is it that you are doing? Tang Sang let out a deep sigh, Amitabha. A terrifying surge of vitality erupted instantly. Not only was he not drawn in, but he suddenly exerted his force, striking a punch into the void. Before the eyes of the utterly horrified great King Silverhorn, the vitality of Tang Sang transformed into a colossal hand, grasping the gourd firmly from across the distance, and with his right arm bulging with thick, protruding veins, he yanked it back with immense force. Come here, you foul object! With a sharp tearing sound, the purple gold gourd in the hands of great King Silverhorn was forcefully ripped from his grasp by the savage strength of Tang Sang. whistling through the air as it flew toward Tang Sang, and landing neatly into the palm of his hand. The eyes of Great King Silverhorn nearly bulged from their sockets. The treasure of the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord could not even absorb this mortal body, and instead he had it snatched away by sheer brute force. Tang Sang glanced at the gourd in his hand, shaking his head in disdain. The capacity is far too small. It is not even enough to hold milk. It is nothing more than a showy trinket, utterly useless. With that, Tang Sung suddenly pressed his palms together, his eyes instantly turning a deep golden red. The boundless true qi of the Buddhist sect and the incomparably domineering vitality within his body fused completely in that very moment. Would release immortal art, Buddhist sect secret technique, thousand-hand great Buddha golden body. Rumble, 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 rumble. Accompanied by a thunderous shout from Tang Seng, the entire surface of Mount Pingding was struck by a magnitude 12 earthquake. Under the shocked gazes of Great King Silverhorn, the countless minor demons and Sun Wukong's group, golden light spanning 10,000 feet erupted from behind Tang Seng, and a great Buddha constructed of true qi, standing thousands of feet tall, rose from the earth, piercing straight into the clouds. This great Buddha was entirely distinct from traditional statues. Its entire body was covered in protruding veins. His face was twisted in a mask of fury, while thousands upon thousands of massive arms sprouted from his back, appearing like an Asura deity determined to annihilate the world. Tang Sang hovered in the center of the great Buddha's forehead, his arms crossed against his chest as he looked down at the silver-horned demon king, who appeared as small as an ant beneath him. The 10,000 colossal hands of the great Buddha simultaneously clenched into the Amitabha fist, the first technique of the Mahayana Buddhist physics. The 3,000-fold retribution. Thousands of massive golden fists descended with madness upon the lotus cave of Mount Pingding below. Boom, 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 boom! As the first fist descended, the main peak of Mount Pingding was pulverized into dust. With the second, the Earth's crust fractured violently for 100 miles around. A chasm, bottomless and abyss-like, had just appeared. When the third fist struck down, and the lotus cave, long heralded as unbreakable, was crushed like tofu under a giant hammer, instantly reduced to ashes. The gold-horned demon king, who had been brandishing his golden rope, holding the seven-star sword and preparing to emerge, intended to display his power outside the cave alongside the silver-horned demon king, who had already been paralyzed by fear. They did not even have time to let out a final scream, as the entire Mount Pingding and its thousands of demon soldiers were wiped out, leaving not a single trace behind. They were flattened into a massive barren basin. The thick cloud layer in the sky was blown open, creating a hole tens of thousands of miles in diameter, and the southern heaven gate, situated above the 9 heavens, shook violently from the impact. Taishang Laojun, residing within the Tushida Palace, rolled his eyes backward and collapsed, clutching his beard in shock. My palm leaf fan, my jade purification vase, my 7-star sword. This monk has shattered all of my precious artifacts with a single blow. You must compensate me for my treasures. Once the dust had settled, the 10,000-meter-tall statue of the Buddha slowly dissipated, turning into golden true qi that flowed back into Tang Seng's body. Tang Seng landed gracefully upon a flat rock, catching his breath slightly, a look of profound compassion for life shining in his eyes. Amitabha, a master of combat, does not seek illustrious victories. This technique truly consumes a great deal of true qi. He then turned his head to look at Yu Chao behind him. Yu Chao, I have expended much energy. Tonight, I require you to attend to me. Yu Chao's face flushed red, her breath hitching, her eyes filled only with fanatical adoration. There was not a trace of fear to be found. To be chosen for dual cultivation by such a powerful man was a blessing that the demon realm could not hope to attain in 8 lifetimes. Sun Wukong stood in the distance, silently setting his golden cudgel aside. He cast a glance at Zhu Bajie and Xiao Wujing, who remained unconscious on the ground from the shockwaves. With a quiet sigh, the Tang monks party once again set forth on their pilgrimage for the scriptures. Along this journey, even the Heavenly Court and Mount Ling dared not casually dispatch agents to investigate. They feared that if this muscular monk were displeased, he might storm straight into the Heavenly Court or Mount Ling to stage a spectacle. They imagined him lifting an entire pavilion with his bare hands for all to see. It was not until they arrived before a volcano that burned perpetually throughout the year that a complication arose. Within the firewheel cave of this mountain resided the Red Boy, who had mastered a formidable form of the Samadhi true fire. In the original legends, this very flame had nearly claimed the life of Sun Wukong. At this moment, Red Boy sat within his cave, listening to a minor demon report. Great King, a group of monks has arrived outside. The monk in the lead possesses a massive brawny physique. It is said that consuming Tang Sanzang's flesh grants immortality. Hearing this, Red Boy's crimson eyes gleamed with greed, and he immediately snatched up his fire-tipped spear to confront the monk. You foolish bald donkey, are you the one called Tang Sanzang? Sun Wukong's fiery eyes and golden pupils flashed with intensity. He let out a cold laugh, saying, I know not from what wilderness this wild brat emerged, but you dare to clamor before your great sage grandfather? With that, Sun Wukong drew his golden cudgel, preparing to teach this child, who knew nothing of the vastness of heaven and earth, a lesson. But before he could take more than a few steps, Red Boy opened his mouth wide and struck his nose twice with his fists. With a resounding thwump, a towering inferno erupted directly from his nose and mouth, manifesting into a fire dragon over 100 jang in length, which surged toward the Tang monks' party. The temperature surrounding the monks spiked instantly, rocks and gold began to melt, and even Sun Wukong's golden cudgel began to warp. Wukong was immediately struck with shock and terror. This is dire. It is the Sni true fire. Everyone, be careful. After all, everyone present understood the lethal power of this flame. Yet, just as the Samadhi true fire was about to make contact with Tang Sanzang, the monk rose slowly to his feet, facing that destructive inferno head-on, and with profound composure, drew a deep long breath. Then, under Red Boy's incredulous gaze, the volatile torrent of Samadhi true fire was drawn toward Tang Sanzang's gaping mouth, and he swallowed the flames completely, leaving not a flicker behind. After finishing, Tang Sanzang patted his abdominal muscles and let out a satisfied belch, remarking, the flavor was somewhat bland. Yet the 9 Sun True Chi within his body had surged, advancing yet another level. How I wish there had been a little more. You are a monster, Red Boy cried out, trembling so violently he lost all control. That was his Samadhi true fire, the very technique he took the most pride in. Even his own father, the Bull Demon King, would not dare to face it head-on. Yet, this monk had swallowed it as if it were a refreshing beverage, and he even looked as though he were left wanting more. Terrified by this thought, Red Boy turned to flee. But it was already too late. Tang Sanzang let out a cold laugh. He swung his right hand outward. There was no name for this technique. It was merely a raw, simple, and unadorned strike. Yet in the next instant, the sheer force gathered the surrounding energy, compressing the very air into a focused blast of pressure. Red Boy did not even have time to manifest his mystical arts before the air cannon slammed into his face. With a muffled grunt, Red Boy was knocked unconscious instantly. He plummeted to the ground, collapsing amidst the rubble like a broken, discarded doll. His eyes rolled back into his head, and the Samadhi true fire extinguished completely. Sun Wukong, Zhu Bajie, and the others were once again frozen in shock, unable to fathom how Tang Sanzang could be completely unaffected by the Samadhi true fire, to the point of swallowing it whole in a single breath. The situation was truly terrifying. At that very moment, Guanyin Bodhisattva arrived from the southern sea, beads of sweat glistening on her brow. She had anticipated that Sun Wukong would be scorched by the Samadhi true fire and forced to seek her aid, at which point she would make her grand entrance. Use the water of the 4 seas from her jade vase to extinguish the flames, and conveniently subdue Red Boy to serve as her disciple. Yet, the moment she descended upon her clouds, she witnessed her intended disciple being struck into the earth by Tang Sanzang, his life hanging in the balance. Even more infuriatingly, after Tang Sanzang knocked Red Boy to the ground, he began to haul the boy up by his collar and slap him awake. He then produced an iron chain from who knows where and forcefully shackled it around Red Boy's neck. Child, Tang Sanzang remarked, I see that you possess extraordinary skeletal structure. You have a natural talent for stoking fires. From this day forward, the tasks of cooking and gathering firewood for our group shall be yours. Red Boy's face burned with humiliation, but upon catching sight of Tang Sanzang's fist, which appeared larger than a sandbag, he silently bowed his head in submission. Above them, Guanyin Bodhisattva trembled with rage, and immediately descended. That is the gifted child predestined for our Buddhist sect. How could you dare to imprison him at your own discretion? As the words fell, Tang Sung slowly raised his head, his face filled with bewilderment. Bodhisattva, you are mistaken. He excels at using fire to boil noodles and roast meat, nourishing everyone in our group. Is this not a merit of immeasurable scale? Could it be that the Bodhisattva wishes to micromanage even the hot meals of a wandering monk? You depraved monk! Guanyin Bodhisattva was so infuriated by Tang Seng's sophistry that she nearly fainted, yet she dared not make a move. After all, this Tang Seng was no ordinary practitioner. Looking at his robust, muscular physique, if he were to shatter her pure vase with a single punch, who would be left to listen to her grievances? After deliberating for a long time without finding a viable solution, she transformed into a golden light and departed in a rage. Red Boy immediately fell into despair, resigned to following Zhu Bajie and serving as the group's fire starter. Thus, the most formidable demon child on the journey to the west had been fully reduced to a tool for the team. A few months later, a crystal-clear river appeared before them. On the opposite bank stood a bustling city, with the characters Kingdom of Women engraved upon its gates. Seeing the scantily clad female soldiers patrolling the perimeter, Zhu Bajie's eyes immediately glowed with greed, and drool dripped 3 feet from his mouth. Master, this kingdom of women is filled with nothing but women. It is a veritable paradise. Even Sun Wukong and Sha Sung could not help but steal a few glances, though Tang Sung merely furrowed his brows. Where there are many women, there is an abundance of yin energy. This is an excellent place for cultivation. However, for a mere mortal, the environment offers little to temper my yang-strengthening energy. Yet, a golden light suddenly flickered in Tang Seng's eyes. It is said that in this kingdom of women lies the miraculous mother-child river. If the balance between yin and yang is disrupted, consuming its waters can lead to conception and childbirth. I myself could broaden my horizons by witnessing it. If a great demon were to occupy this place, even better, I shall subdue it with ease. As the group approached, the female soldiers at the gate discovered them and were initially highly vigilant. But as the distance between them closed, especially when their gazes fell upon the towering, imposing figure of Tang Sung, whose body radiated an explosive masculine presence, all the female soldiers were stirred into a frenzy. Quick, report to Her Majesty the Queen. A man of peerless quality has descended upon our kingdom of women. Moments later, the Queen of the Western Liang Kingdom, surrounded by her officials, hurried out of the city gates to welcome them. In the original tale, the gentle queen fell for the frail scholarly monk that was Tang Sing. Yet, As this queen of peerless beauty caught her first glimpse of the bare-chested monk with his bronze-toned muscles, blood instantly gushed from her nose, and her body went limp, nearly causing her to collapse to the floor. Her eyes were filled with nothing but fervent adoration and infatuation. This was no mere royal brother, he was truly the supreme god of all women in the kingdom of women. The queen approached, with a coquettish grace, to greet him. "Holy monk, you have traveled a great distance from the great Tang of the East. If you do not find it beneath you, why not remain here in my palace? I am willing to offer the prosperity of this entire nation as a dowry for you to take the throne. I shall serve as your queen, and together we shall share this eternal empire." As the words left her lips, Tang Sang, who ought to have tactfully refused to uphold his monastic vows, instead allowed a predatory smile to curl upon his lips. "I graciously acknowledge your kindness, your majesty. To me this empire is but a passing cloud before my eyes. However, if you truly wish to discuss the profound path of yin and yang, I shall visit your chambers this evening, to personally enlighten you, through the essence of the Buddha's Dharma." As soon as these words were uttered, the area outside the city gates of the Kingdom of Women fell deathly silent, only to erupt moments later into thunderous, earth-shaking cheers. Sun Wukong squeezed his eyes shut in agony. It was over. The pilgrimage to obtain the scriptures was effectively ruined. Zhuba Jie, meanwhile, was consumed by a maddening jealousy. Master not only steals the food from the mouths of demons, but he even covets the throne of a monarch. Oh heavens, you are truly unjust. That night, inside the palace of the Kingdom of Women, red candles burned brightly. The Queen of Xiliang was draped in a thin scarlet silk, and Tang Sung stepped into the chamber. It was not until the dawn of the following day that Tang Sung emerged from the chambers, donning his monk's robes, with a look of immense satisfaction. After a night of vigorous labor, he had successfully liquefied the true energy within his body once more, showing faint signs of condensing it into a golden elixir. However, at that very moment, a foul, bloody wind stirred across the sky of the Kingdom of Women. A surge of billowing black mist descended, and within that mist lurked the scorpion spirit, the very creature who, in the original legend, once stunned Sun Wukong with her venomous stinger. She hovered in the air, casting a predatory gaze down upon Tang Sang. My! What a majestic and imposing monk. Why not follow me back to the Pipa Cave and enjoy the pleasures of the flesh? With that, the scorpion spirit extended her lethal tail, striking toward Tang Sang with the speed of lightning. Guanyin Bodhisattva, hiding amidst the clouds in the distance, witnessed this sight, and a flicker of delight finally pierced her frustrated heart. Good. Even the Buddha himself must treat this scorpion's stinger with 3 parts caution. Tang Sanzang, no matter how ironclad your mortal body may be, surely you cannot be immune to this virulent poison? Once you are wounded, you shall have no choice but to bow your head and beg my Buddhist sect for salvation. Yet facing that ferocious scorpion tail, Tang Sang merely glanced at it with cold indifference. Disturbing this humble monk's cultivation is a sin that cannot be forgiven. He then raised his right hand, his index finger shimmering with a golden radiance. He took a deep breath, aiming precisely at the black gold scorpion tail hurtling toward him at an extreme speed. He curled his finger and unleashed the simplest of flicks, the most primordial of gestures. A serious flick of the finger, clang, the intense sound of clashing metal rang out, and the very space around them distorted. Moments later, amidst the incredulous, shocked cries of Guanyin Bodhisattva, and under the dazed gazes of Sun Wukong and his companions, the scorpion demon's venomous stinger, hailed as the finest in the world, made contact with the tip of Tang Sang's index finger. It failed not only to pierce even a layer of his skin, but starting from the point of impact, crack, 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 it shattered inch by inch, much like a brittle cookie. Yet the ordeal was far from over. The shockwave from Tang Sang's flick surged backward, rushing upward and traveling straight into the abdomen of the scorpion demon. With a thunderous boom, a demon that had cultivated for 1,000 years, unable to even touch Tang Sang's robes, was struck dead by a single flick of his finger. A one-hit kill, a true absolute instant kill. Afterward, Tang Sang brushed away a non-existent speck of dust from his index finger, turned his head to look at Zhuba Jie and Red Boy, and commanded, "Take this large scorpion down, extract the venom sac for refining medicinal pills. As for the muscle and tendons, prepare them as a dish of fried scorpion." High in the sky, the willow branch in Guanyin Bodhisattva's hand was crushed by her own grip, her entire being plunged into a stupor. Only after a long while did she regain her senses. Once she had recovered, she muttered incessantly, "Too terrifying, far too terrifying. I want to resign, I want to resign." She then turned and fled headlong, racing straight toward Lingshan. She swore that if they did not replace this freakish Tang Sanzang, she would rather go to Wuzhuang Temple to tend trees than continue this babysitting task. The next day, Tang Sung bid farewell to the Queen of Women's country, who was filled with deep reluctance, and continued his journey toward the west. That day the party arrived at a desolate mountain range. They closed their eyes to comprehend the true qi circulating through their increasingly formidable physical bodies. Suddenly Sun Wukong, who was scouting the path ahead, let out a roar that shook the very heavens and earth. Which demon dares to impersonate this old sun? Everyone looked up, only to see Sun Wukong in the sky, brandishing his golden staff, locked in a life-or-death battle with another monkey who bore an identical appearance, wielding a golden staff of his own. Whether in stature, appearance, magical prowess, or close-quarters combat ability, the two monkeys were identical. Even the sound of their golden staves clashing against one another was not the slightest bit different. Clang, clang, clang! The two monkeys fought with bloodshot eyes. battling from the heavens down to the earth and from the earth surging back into the clouds. In an instant, gale-force winds roared, and the sheer power of their strikes tore through the mountains and shattered the landscape. You dare to take on the form of Old Sun? You are truly courting death. The six-eared macaque burned with rage and retorted, You are the demon. I am the great sage equaling heaven, entrusted with protecting the master on his pilgrimage to the western heavens. Below, Zhu Bajie and Sha Wujing were at a complete loss, utterly unable to determine whom they should assist. Master, what is happening here? How have two great senior brothers emerged? Tang Sanzang, sitting atop his white horse, opened his eyes with profound impatience. He glanced at the two monkeys, who were locked in a stalemate above, his brow furrowing slightly as his muscular chest heaved with a rhythmic motion. How incredibly noisy and vexing. Amitabha, this master only wished to close his eyes and rest upon his horse for a moment. Yet the two of you are here, banging your staves together with a racket that makes it impossible to find peace. Hearing this, the two monkeys in the sky could not help but cease their assault, descending in unison to stand before Tang Sanzang. Sun Wukong shouted anxiously, Master, this demon appeared out of nowhere. Not only has he taken the form of your disciple, but he has even conjured a replica of my golden staff. The six-eared macaque, refusing to be outdone, immediately feigned grievance and knelt upon the ground. Master, do not listen to this demon's falsehoods. I am your true disciple, Wukong. You must render justice for me. After saying this, the six-eared macaque sneered inwardly. Gifted with 6 ears from birth, he possessed the ability to hear the secrets of all things. He could even discern portions of the Tathagata's thoughts. He wanted to see how this monk, rumored to possess nothing but brute physical strength, would distinguish the true from the false. Even if the monk were to recite the band-tightening mantra, he was confident he could act the part more convincingly than the real monkey himself. If one cannot discern the truth, perhaps it would be better to simply strike Tang Sanzang unconscious, take his place, and travel to the western heaven to attain Buddhahood oneself. Yet Tang Sanzang did not chant a single line of the binding spell. He merely dismounted from his white horse with deliberate slowness. He gazed at the two identical monkeys kneeling before him on the ground, and suddenly he revealed a smile that was chillingly sinister. My master once taught me that all ornate illusions and transformations are but bubbles in a dream, was effaced with absolute power and substance. If you share the same appearance, wield the same artifacts, and even mimic each other's voices, then your master shall employ the most primitive of methods. As the words fell, the heart of the six-eared macaque skipped a beat. Instinctively, he sensed a sliver of intense, life-threatening peril. But just as he started to look up, Tang Sanzang roared, unleashing the 6th gate of the 8 inner gates, the view gate. With a thunderous boom, a surge of visible, emerald-green vapor erupted like a volcanic eruption, shooting straight into the heavens. In the following second, Tang Sanzang's hulking silhouette appeared behind both monkeys simultaneously. Amidst the horrified gazes of the onlookers, Tang Sanzang drew a deep breath and unleashed a barrage of thousands of straight punches. Thud thud thud, there was no magic to lock onto his targets. There was no attempt at discernment or comparison, for he had completely enveloped both the true Sun Wukong and the six-eared macaque in his assault. Damn it all, he intended to send both monkeys to the afterlife with a single onslaught. Master, no, I am the real Wukong. The true monkey shrieked in desperation, raising his golden hooped rod to desperately deflect the blows. But those terrifying fists collided with the staff, the impact so severe that the web between his thumb and index finger tore open. His Vajra indestructible body began to fracture immediately, and the six-eared macaque was even more terrified, his soul nearly fleeing his body. He never could have anticipated that this monk would ignore all protocol, that he was far too lazy to bother with identification, and instead chose to unleash his ultimate technique, aiming to annihilate them both. Driven by the primal urge to survive, the six-eared macaque finally crumbled under the pressure. How could his divine syntone withstand such physical might? How could he possibly compare to a Sun Wukong, who had consumed countless immortal peaches and golden elixirs, and had been tempered within the crucible of 8 trigrams? Faced with punches as heavy and relentless as a torrential storm, his perfect illusionary technique was shattered. In an instant his true form was revealed, a gargantuan golden-furred monkey with 6 ears. Tang Sanzang's whirlwind of attacks stopped abruptly, and the emerald-green vapor slowly dissipated. He stared down at the six-eared macaque, who lay shivering on the ground in his true form, and the battered, swollen-faced Wukong beside him. He clasped his hands together, instantly resuming a posture of solemn, merciful dignity. Amitabha, benevolence, true benevolence. Do you not see, my disciples, that this method of differentiation I have employed is both swift and efficient? The six-eared macaque was utterly broken by this point, never having imagined that beneath such absolute violent brutality, he would be unable to withstand even the time it takes for a single incense stick to burn. Hearing this, Tang Sanzang spoke, Bajie, take him away, skin him, extract his tendons, and slice off those 6 ears to prepare a dish of dressed monkey ears. The moment these words were uttered, the heavens and earth trembled. Far away in the great Layan temple of the western heaven, the Tathagata Buddha could no longer remain seated. The 6-eared macaque was a vital piece on his chessboard. He could not allow this savage monk to turn him into a mere side dish for a meal. Suddenly, a brilliant golden radiance illuminated the horizon, accompanied by the resonant chantings of scriptures as a 9-petaled lotus pedestal descended upon the desolate mountains. The 100-jang tall, golden dharmakaya of the Tathagata Buddha manifested before the group. Across the skies, countless deities, bodhisattvas and arhats appeared in his wake. A terrifying pressure of divinity poured downward, crushing those nearby. Bajie and Sha Wujing, and even Sun Wukong found himself unable to withstand the weight of this aura, forced to lean heavily upon his golden hooped rod just to remain upright. Tang Sang, however, remained standing where he was. Far from kneeling, he began slowly removing his heavy Indian prayer beads one by one. Amitabha, the Buddha Dharma is boundless. Tang Sanzang, your journey has been paved with too much slaughter, distorting the very essence of mercy within our Buddhist sect. The six-eared macaque may be guilty, but his crimes do not warrant death. Hand him over to me. I possess the means to reform him. Amitabha. Buddha, you are mistaken. Following this, Tang Sung cast the prayer beads carelessly to the ground, creating loud, thunderous impacts that left deep craters in the earth. Within his previously calm eyes, a crimson golden light of true chi suddenly erupted. My master once taught me that the boundless nature of the Buddha Dharma signifies that its physical attacks know no bounds. That which is called turning one's head to find the shore is merely a state achieved after I have beaten them so severely that their heads snap toward the back, resulting in their immediate demise. Today this appetizer is one that this monk intends to consume. If the Buddha is dissatisfied, Tang Seng slightly crouched, and a terrifying surge of blood ki exploded from his body. 8 gates of Dunjia, the 8th gate, the gate of death, open. Blood-red steam instantly enveloped Tang Seng's entire form, the earth beneath his feet shattering into fragments. And for the first time, the expression of the Tathagata Buddha shifted. Within that dragon-shaped veil, Tang Sanzang, what do you intend to do? Do you dare to raise a hand against this seat? However, Tang Sanzang had no intention of listening to his explanations. With a thunderous roar, he activated night armor and shattered the very earth beneath his feet, his entire being transforming into a crimson meteor, surging directly toward the Buddha suspended in the heavens. There were no mystical arts, no gaudy displays, only a kick that compressed the laws of physics to their absolute limit. Then, the onlookers beheld a crimson divine dragon roaring as it opened its bloodthirsty maw, tearing through the barriers established by the surrounding deities with terrifying ferocity, and hurtling straight into the golden Dharma body of Tathagata. Tathagata could no longer maintain his detached, serene demeanor, and he let out a roar of harrowing rage. The hands he had previously held in prayer suddenly unfurled, and his golden Dharma body erupted with immeasurable Buddha light. Simultaneously, Guanyin and Manjushri Bodhisattva behind him, along with the 500 arhats across the heavens, frantically channeled their spiritual power, weaving a golden defensive barrier spanning tens of thousands of feet before Tathagata. Yet when the steam-shrouded, burning crimson foot of Tang Sanzang violently collided with Tathagata's defensive wall, time itself seemed to stand still in that singular moment. There was no deafening explosion, only a sphere of blinding white light, so intense that heaven and earth were obscured as it suddenly expanded. Immediately following, the sound of splintering emerged. That golden wall collapsed, shattering into fine dust. Every deity and Buddha of the Great Layan Temple in the western heaven was sent flying backward like kites with severed strings. Guanyin Bodhisattva's hair was left in disarray as she collapsed onto a cloud, trembling uncontrollably. Tang Sanzang landed steadily upon the ground from midair, the crimson steam surrounding him slowly dissipating. And after catching his breath for a few moments, he brushed away non-existent dust from his kasaya, his gaze sweeping over the celestial and earthly beings who were by now paralyzed with terror. Amitabha, what a sin, truly a sin. This monk seems to have miscalculated the force of his blow. Originally, he only intended to ask the Buddha to step aside, but he did not expect the Buddha to be so remarkably courteous, retreating directly back to Mount Ling to welcome this humble monk. Down on the ground, the 6-eared macaque was already trembling in sheer terror, losing all composure. Even in his wildest dreams, he could never have imagined that Tathagata would be sent flying with a single kick. And this was the Tathagata Buddha himself, no less. Sun Wukong, Zhu Bajie, and the others were utterly shaken to their core. None of them could have fathomed that Tang Sanzang's true strength was this monstrous. Following this event, the title of Tang Sanzang underwent a complete transformation. Whether in the heavenly court, the mortal realm, or the ruins of Mount Ling, everyone tacitly understood and addressed him as Tang Sanzang, signifying that he held the power to enter the heavens, enter the earth, and bury all sentient life. Along the journey to retrieve the scriptures, no demon dared to emerge to obstruct him again. Even the true scriptures from the Great Layan Temple were delivered personally by a bodhisattva. It was claimed that Tathagata, witnessing the hardships of his journey, had specifically ordered her to bring them as a gift. Tang Sanzang did not decline such a gesture. After all, if such a treasure is delivered to one's doorstep, it would be folly to refuse. 3 months later, Tang Sanzang returned to the city of Chang'an. Emperor Li Shimin of the Great Tang personally led his civil and military officials outside the city gates to welcome him. When Li Shimin beheld Tang Xuanzang riding upon a white horse larger than an elephant, radiating an overwhelming and masculine aura, accompanied by 2 great demons and a retinue of female spirits serving him, the emperor's mouth hung open so wide that a duck egg could easily fit inside. Royal brother, is this truly how you return? Your Majesty, the scriptures have been retrieved. Furthermore, I have brought back a supreme truth far more profound than any text, namely the path of physical